Yes, hello everyone. Welcome to Sapio Umbrella's CEO Roundtable Conference. Thank you everyone for your time and figuring out some time and coming to this session to discuss on the impact of COVID-19 on Indian business. So we have with us Mr. Sanjeeva Shivesh, who is entrepreneur and founder of CES, the Entrepreneur School, and also he's our economic advisory head at the Sapio Umbrella. So I'll just quickly go through the flow of the conference here it would be. So first 15 minutes we will discuss on the white paper that we had published few days ago regarding the impact of COVID-19 on Indian economy. And for the next 45 minutes we'll be having sort of a discussion and a session on how the different industries are being impacted due to this COVID situation, and we can share our thoughts over there. So over to Sanjeev sir. So you may please take it ahead.
Right. So, good morning, all, and welcome to this, roundtable. And this roundtable will be steered by me and my colleague Masroor Lodi. Masroor, just say hello to everyone.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Right. So, both of us are going to be sharing and walking you through the work that we have done in the last few days. So, without wasting time, I start sharing my deck. Just give me a moment. Yeah. So this is the new world that we are living in, and we have quickly adapted with the world of Zoom, and we are meeting each other more often on Zoom camera than sharing knowledge. Uh, that's the new world. I have lots of friends here, and this is the work that we've for the last maybe 12 years we have been building economic data points. And when COVID happened, it seemed like a lot of things were converging. And we were able to see new trends, new things. And we thought that we published this white paper to bring out those uh, uh, the new things that we were able to see. And context of this conference. The flow of presentation is a very quick summary of what we have done India, then discuss about the emerging scenarios and the assessment of the support that the economy requires. But more importantly, we want it to be more dialogue based rather than a monologue from one side. So we would be grateful for your inputs, comments, participation as we move along. So just to unfreeze, here's the first question, and on your chat box, I would request everyone to put in their responses. Masroor is compiling. So a lot of people are doing this for a long time, for almost nearly a month, and the answers that we got in March was very different. But we still want to understand this, and the question for all of us is: how long do you think COVID-19 impact would last? And in the in the chat box, you can key in your options as A, B, C, D, E. If you think that the impact would last by June 20th, that is 2 months from now, your option would be A. Otherwise, B for September. For December, it's going to be C. For next year, March, it is D. And if we think it's going to last beyond that, then it is E. So we have few responses. Let me see. Right.
Interestingly, D and E.
Colonel Pokhriyal is also there. Hi, Colonel.
Hello, sir. Good morning. Good to see you all. Let me open my camera.
Right. So very interesting. We have most of the responses ranging from D to C, D to E. One response is at B, but and as we head into COVID, it is, as everyone calls, it's a VUCA situation, volatile. Things are changing super fast. We don't know. It's unknown that we have walked into, and in that sense, the way economy is shaping up. And the variables of economy, everything becomes very hard to control and assess. So I quickly come to the next part. I think the average answer is hovering around D and E. Uh, the flow of the presentation is about the work, and what we have done is we built uh, the economic scenarios around three scenarios. And the first was that the economy opens as it opened on 20th April, and the crisis to last until September 2020. Right, so that's scenario one, and to most, and even to us, it looks like it's fairly optimistic scenario. And then the second scenario that we have planned to do the economic modeling is around calibrated opening of economy, which is planned for 4th May 2020, and the crisis to last until December, right, and after December things become fine. And the third scenario is economy again, the ignition. So we are already ignited, but calibrated opening from 4th May, and the crisis to last until the whole of this year. There are a number of people who believe that the crisis is here to stay and it's going to stay longer. We have not built that scenario. So if you look at all the experts and everyone who thinks in terms of social distancing as the new way of working, uh, and this a lot of people believe that this is going to continue until a new vaccine comes. And the vaccine is, there are various estimates. Some people say it's September 2021. Some people say December 2021. So it is shooting, everyone is shooting in the dark in that sense. But it is rapidly changing scenario. A lot of new things are happening, and we are loaded with lots of new information. And in that context, it's very important to understand where we are heading. And using scenario planning, the big finding of our study is that and the first heads into the data that we have is the size of economic package which is required to tide over this crisis for India is in the of the tune of 14.88 lakh crores. About 15 lakh crore is what is required. Now consider that India's GDP, nominal GDP, is about 200 lakh crore. So 15 lakh crore is about 7.5% of the GDP. So that's the big number. And we are going to walk you through a variety of economic indicators, numbers, realities, truths, and then we engage into discussion. And Masroor is going to steer most of the discussion. I'm going to present the data. He's done a lot of number crunching, and I really want him to take that. But if you look at this screen, there are 4 charts, and 4 charts are indicators of how things are shaping up. So the first chart on the top left is the GST collection. And if you look at GST collection, the blue bars are the collection for the financial year which ended in March 2020, and the green bars is for the previous financial year. So even for the month of March, you can see a sharp dip of about 8.4% in GST collections. And today, the strongest indicator of economy is the GST number. So there are a number of high frequency indicators, but in all our research, we find that India's economy is about 55% formal, and GST is sort of benchmarking the formal economy in a very solid way. So this is the reality of March. We don't know how April is going to shape up. It's your guess, my guess, anyone's guess, right? This is another study which was done by Energy Policy Institute for electricity consumption in March, which dipped by about 24%, and this is right up to 12th of April. So this data point is right up to 12th of April. Look at the brown bars, and this was the average level of electricity consumption in India. There was some dip sometime, but March it really dipped by about 24%. So again, a huge dip. On the right hand side, top left, you could see the unemployment number, and we have taken CMI's unemployment tracker. So this is correct up to this is as real as latest as 19th of April, so about 3-4 days from now, and look at this huge shooting up of unemployment rate. So the average unemployment rate in India was in the range of about 6 to 8%, but now it has really climbed to about 26% unemployment rate, and that's the indicator of where we are. But in the midst of all, there's also a silver lining, especially for India. The world 2 days back was shaken up, and everyone is trying to catch up this slide of where oil is heading, and oil became negative, and right. So some corrections are there on, yesterday it corrected just a bit, but this this perhaps is the silver lining, and India has used this silver lining. When oil price is corrected, India and increased the rates of taxes uh, on the oil to spruce up the government finances, and we are going to look at how it is all the government finances also looking like. So a few other indicators, and this is Governor RBI. He spoke about 4 days back in his address. So these are April 10 agriculture indicators, and which says that paddy acreage is up 37% over last year. So that's the good news. The other good news is India's southwest monsoon forecast, which is the monsoon which is from June to September. The forecast by IMD is that it's going to be 100% of the long-term average. So last year's forecast was about 96% of the average, but it actually touched 100%, or about 100.2%. This year's forecast is, again, monsoon is going to be at the long-term average levels. And this is important because a lot of monsoon feeds into agriculture. Then we had the National Statistical Office come up with few numbers, and this is the index of industrial production, and you could see the decline in IIP numbers over previous years. So for the 11 months of last financial year, the growth in industrial production was 0.9% as compared to the previous year, where the growth was 4.5%. There has been decline in consumer price inflation and food inflation both vis-a-vis previous months. So March inflation, the numbers that you see here are and this is for Feb. So slight decline, and everyone is hoping that this would decline further. But yesterday there was a bad news, and a lot of people would have got this news on their WhatsApp message about potato inflation, right? So potato prices are shooting up, and that's the economic scenario that we are living in. And then we have numbers coming from Indian Railways, where the freight traffic is running, and freight traffic essentially comprised of 8 large commodities that Indian Railway ships. So essentially coal, fuel, minerals, cement, iron, steel, food grains, and the net dip of about 36% in the first 10 days of April. We'll get this another number till for 20th April in about another 3-4 days. Now, so this is the reality. We also know that last year was a year of poor tax collections. For whatever reason, call it banking crisis, etc., etc., we have had very weak private sector investments, and the RBI has been trying to do a lot of things in terms of rate cuts and all that, but the monetary transmission has not really happened. So this is the context in which we were living, and when COVID crisis struck us. I really wanted to bring this large, big number. So there are a number of details here, but we have a sectoral breakup of employment figures in India. There are 46 crore people, or call it 47 crore people who are employed, or 468 million people who are employed. And most of them, they are employed in agriculture. The next big bucket is trade, hotels, transport, and communication. and then construction, then manufacturing, then public administration, defense, and other services. So this is the large breakup. We also have estimates of informal employment, because a lot of people employed in these sectors could also be informally employed, and that's the nature of the beast that we have to that's there in India. So out of 468 million, one of the trackers that we build is what's the size of informal employment, and there are about 20 crore people who are in informal sector, right? And for different sectors, these are different, and these matter because on March 24th, when the lockdown was announced, a lot of people sort of they just left the scene. The trucks were left on the highways, and uh, people started migrating out of cities to their villages. People were walking past, and you are privy to all this information. Uh, Before I move further, a quick uh, uh, request. If you have any questions going on any of these slides, keep shooting, because my colleague Masroor will keep noting, and once we are off this slide, then we'll also tackle those questions. So, but keep shooting. Masroor can take those questions and just barge in, and then we'll, as a need, he takes charge.
Yeah, so Shivesh, there is an interesting question which has come, and I believe the question is regarding the renewable energy
Right.
from Lieutenant Colonel Narula.
Right.
Whose question is, how do you see the impact of all this on renewable energy segment? So interestingly, fortunately, we have Mr. Arne Lorenzen from renewable energy segment. And I think we may either take this question at a time when he would speak briefly about his segment, and we throw questions to the audience and request their views. I think we might want to continue now and then take the questions with him then.
Sure. So, and it's a great question, and RNA is the best person who can take this one. So we have our estimates, but the person is from the industry, he has his own insights, and we'll take it. So give me a minute, and we'll take a pause just after this. So, but this employment scenario is important, because the drivers of economy are essentially labor, raw materials, and access to capital. Right. And whichever sector your hunch is that there has been more exodus of people from cities to rural areas, those are sectors which are going to get affected most. We have built our own models using those frameworks, but I really wanted this to be flagged with you. So use this and a last slide before we pause for a few questions. So these are some headline government numbers. So we are all aware that the budget 2020 was presented on 1st of February this year. And here are certain, ratios of budget. So Government of India revenue receipt as a percentage of GDP. So revenue receipt are all the tax receipts as a percentage of GDP. So last 5 years, you can see the trend, how it was shaping up. And for the last financial year, government made a projection of 9.1%. So you can see this big gap out here. And for the current financial year, government pegged it at about 8.9%, or call it 9%. And total receipts are other receipts, which includes disinvestment proceeds, etc., etc. So government anticipated that government's receipts would be close to about 10% of GDP in the current financial year. So, so this number is important. 10% of GDP is what, and government intended to spend about 11% of total expenditure of government was anticipated at 13% of the GDP. So this gap was supposed to be 22.5 lakh crore minus 30.7 lakh crore is what we call as fiscal deficit gap. And India had planned for a fiscal deficit of 3.5% for this year. For the previous year, which closed, India during the budget, we said that we are going to take it to 3.8%. The reality is that all these numbers have changed, and 3.8%, in our opinion, is still not valid. And The only saving grace, as I and as all of you would realize, in terms of any tax collection, would be the increase because of reduction in crude oil prices, right? And that's going to be about in the nature of about there are various estimates. We estimated that on an annualized basis that would be about 1.5 lakh crore, right? So uh, uh, and that headroom is a good news for us. So these are the budget numbers. Uh, uh, Now, considering all this, there are various agency forecasts that, and the budget assumed that last year we would grow at 7.3%, and next year, so this current financial year, financial year ending 21, India would grow at about 10% nominal. RBI assumed that on real terms we'll grow by 5%. They have not, day before yesterday when Governor Das's speech was going on, no indications came on 2021, but he spoke of next financial year that India is going to grow at 7.4%. So this is still a blank spot in terms of RBI numbers. IMF, they have their own estimates, and IMF has been very super optimistic by projecting about 7.1% growth for the current financial year. Everyone has revised last financial year numbers. Barclays came up with a very pessimistic number, which was the year that just went by, India would grow at 0%. And this is going to be the slowest growth since 1991. So this is the reality. And for the current financial year that we are in, from April to March, Barclays expects that India should grow at about 0.8%. Fitch has given other numbers. Arvind Subramanian came up with this number, and which matches with all the calculations that we have done. He said that every month of shutdown will cause 3 lakh crore of GDP reduction, right? And we believe that he's talking in terms of real numbers, not nominal. Our estimates are 4 lakh crore nominal. So, and that matches with most of the calculations that we are doing. So with this, we take a pause, and Masroor, please take this over.
Yeah, thanks, Shivesh. So hello, everyone. There is another question that I've got for you all. And this is very much sector specific. Can you please go into the chat room again and give an answer to this question, how the COVID-19 is going to impact your sector? And option A means BAU is actually
business as usual.
Business as usual, which means there is no change in the business growth that you see. And I'm just trying to look at. So if you could answer in the chat room, it will be helpful. Yeah. Right. Pushpinder. Mohan B. Right. Right. Some more, please. Yeah. Interesting. So far, we have a good spread, basically. I could see some A's, some B's, some C's, some E's. Of course, no D yet.
No, we got D right now.
Yeah. Just now.
Yes.
Mr. Jan.
Yeah.
Right. Good. Okay. Should we go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. This is where I would like to invite the panel members. So, in terms of your own sectors, what are the various challenges that you see in the economy? And for this purpose, I have on my own picked up certain names, and I would request the views from the delegates who are sitting in this conference. We fortunately have Mr. Harish Bijur with us. So, Mr. Bijur, very briefly, would you share your views on how do you see the impact of COVID-19 on your sector? Mr. Bijur, you may have to unmute yourself. Do we have Mr. Biju with us? Okay. I don't think so.
I can't see Mr. So you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
ask someone else.
I think, okay, so I move to my next sector, and which is infra and construction. And we have two delegates in the session who can help us throw light on that sector, Mr. Arne Lorenzen and Mr. Kapil Khanna. So either of you may want to respond briefly on how do you see your sector looking after the COVID-19?
So, hello everybody. My name is Arne Lorentzen. I work in renewable energy. I am originally from Denmark, but have been in India now for about 1.5 years. So, in the renewable energy sector, I'm in the wind business. And what we can say is that the impacts have been, I would say, on a number of parameters. We have two main activities. One is wind farms that are in operation. Since we are producing power, we are considered essential services. So we have been exempted from the lockdown measures. That means we have been able to continue producing energy. We have been able also to continue billing. And so far we have been able to continue to get paid. And the government has made a number or announced a number of orders that maintains our so-called must-run status, i.e. our production needs to be evacuated in the grid all the time. So far, we are good on the operational side. The risk is, of course, that we have a lower production of power due to the lower demand, as was elaborated in one of the slides earlier. Where we have been impacted in a major way is on the construction side, because the lockdown has meant that we cannot construct anything. There is now, with the easing of the lockdown, possibility that we can start again. From a contractual point of view, we have force majeure declarations from many in our supply chain. So one major impact is on construction and the supply chain. And I would say if you look long term, and that will then depend on the specific company in this business, but capital inflow to India to fund the renewable energy projects will be a major indicator for the impact on this sector. And this is a very complex issue because it's about returns and what is the return expectation going to be in the new scenario in a post-corona situation, although I think we will have a corona situation for a very long time. So I would say for us, it is the supply chain impact.
Right, Arne. Thank you so much for your inputs. Mr. Kapil Khanna, we have you in this session. Can you please share your views on the infrastructure construction sector?
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm Kapil.
I think there's some lag, Mr.
Yeah. Mr. Khanna?
So, you are able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So, with regards to the infrastructure business, currently what we are seeing is that there is
maybe if he can shut down his video, maybe then sound will be clearer. Mr. Khanna can shut down his video.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Masroor?
So what I was saying is that the construction is completely at a standstill. So it is impacting design consultancy and project management consultancy organizations, consulting is. And but most of our activities we are currently in a position that we can do from home, work from home. But we are seeing that the work at site has completely come to a stop, and uh, that's the current status. But what we see, what I feel is that
Yeah.
getting funding from the government, I personally
You're losing.
situation. But till that time, we will have to through this current situation where we are.
Okay.
Okay. Sure. Thank you, Mr. Khanna. I move to Mr.
Hello.
Kapil Mehta. Hello. Yeah, Mr. Khanna. Mr. Mr. Khanna, thank you. Okay, so I need to move to Mr. Kapil Mehta, and I would request you to share your views on the BFSI sector.
Yes, so I am the co-founder of an insurance broking firm called Secure Now, and obviously there's a lot of activity which is taking place, but the way we see our industry, which is a large part of the BFSI sector, is that while the product mix may change in terms of revenue and future projections, we don't expect much change because on the insurance side, when you look at the group business, the commercial business is continuing as it is. The individual business, which is essentially health and motors, continuing as it is. In fact, many insurers are expecting a large or some increase in profits because the claims, which are a large expense, have just shot down. There are no motor claims which are taking place over the past month. So that's like a 1 month of cost saving. And the other, apart from COVID, the other health claims have also. I think for the industry, this is going to be okay. And in the short term, in the long term, of course, as clients begin to suffer, then you will have revenue slowing down. If you leave insurance out of the mix and on the BFSI side, think of lending as the other big component, that is going through enormous struggle. And the companies that I've spoken to on the NBFCs and people in the lending side, they have essentially stopped lending because they're just not sure of whether repayments will happen. And all the effort is put into collecting the old outstandings that they have. I think that business is going to see severe stress. So, the BFSI sector is a very large sector with very different characteristics, but those are really the two sort of broad lending versus insurance, which will have very different outcomes.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mehta. We also have Avinash Kalia with us. Avinash, would you share your views?
Yeah, hi. So I'll just talk about the startup side of things because I'm right now in a VC kind of a mode.
Yeah.
So we are getting desperate calls from quite a few of the companies that we are mentoring. And as you know, startups typically live from round of funding to round of funding. And right now, even those who are executing projects for some of the largest corporates, their payments have all ground to a halt. And I have someone who's got almost 1 crore of receivables from some of the top corporates, and nobody's even willing to discount their bills, although there are email exchanges of deliveries being completed and stuff like that, because right now everybody is terribly risk averse. So it's a continuation of what Kapil was saying back. And so these are startups which are, which have been revenue generating for quite some time, and right now suddenly don't have salary kind of money because they have been investing everything, all cash flows have been going into product development. So we really have no reserves to speak of like large corporates. So we are looking to see if we can bail out some of them with, 50% salaries and stuff like that. But it's really a challenge in that end of the spectrum. So although they are very tiny compared to some of the larger segments that are being discussed, very highly impactful segment also. So there are massive stresses in the early stage segment.
Right, Mr. Kalia. Thank you. I think startups and entrepreneurship ventures are very close to our heart, also being the entrepreneurship school.
Yeah.
And I resonate with what you are saying. Thank you. We have with us Ms. Anjali, and I would request her views on, because she is the head of BNI, and and she would have a very diverse opinion with her. If you could please share your opinion, Anjali.
Masroor, thank you so much. So for those of you who don't know what BNI is, we are entrepreneurs who come together to refer business opportunities to each other. So yes, we are seeing a decline in membership. And however, we have new people, new entrepreneurs joining in, because today you really need lifelong relationships. And the best part is when you refer business opportunities to each other or make these connections at least and start connecting with people, you will get business by and by as and when the market situation opens up. So we are having a decline. There are some entrepreneurs which are not renewing with us because they don't know when will their next money come from. So they are being conservative. So we are seeing the impact on entrepreneur and their mindset. One thing I would like to add is some of them are now started to think out of the box, how to emerge out of this situation and how to take it to the next level, because we have to change with the changing times. Thank you. Over to you.
True. Thank you, Anjali, for your inputs. I quickly move to now the next two sectors that we have. The next one is manufacturing sector, and we have with us Mr. J.K. Jain, who is the CFO of DCM Shriram. Mr. Jain, can you share some of your thoughts?
Okay, so as you said, I represent DCM Shriram Limited. We are a diversified company, largely into agri-inputs, sugar, chemical, and we do have a construction-related business in the form of UPVC windows, which we market in Finista brand. So let me start with the smaller one, which is Finista, and I think one of the gentlemen from construction did say that the construction is at a standstill. So this business of us is also at the total standstill with no collections and no sale. So that is facing challenge. How do you pay salaries, etc., etc. Of course, there is advantage. It is part of a large conglomerate, so we can move funds from one business to another business. But on its own, I think business like this are facing the toughest challenge and are likely to face tough challenge for a longer period as to how do they sustain themselves. The second part of our business is sugar, which makes sugar and ethanol. This was classified as essential service, so didn't have to stop the activities. But there is sharp reduction in demand both in sugar as well as ethanol, because ethanol is mixed with petrol. And since petrol consumption has gone down, there is reduction in ethanol pickup from the OMCs. So therefore, there is large working capital requirements, which has come up all of a sudden.
Mr. Jain, when you say sharp, how sharp?
Pardon me?
When you say sharp, how sharp is it?
So let's say sugar demand for this month at least is down by almost 20%.
Right.
And typically April, May, June are the peak consumption months, so we haven't seen that peak at all.
Right.
Similarly, the lifting of ethanol had reached almost half of what it is supposed to be.
Yeah.
In case of ethanol, what happens is that the factories have limited storage capacities. So if there is no lifting, you need to control or you need to reduce the production as well. That's what we have done in one of our distillery.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the second leg of our business is agri-inputs, where we make fertilizers, seeds, and crop care chemicals, etc. So again, these were classified as essentials and therefore didn't have to stop the production. But there was deep logistics problem in terms of dispatch of material, because the sowing season is about to start. Therefore, there was need to move the material to different markets, and logistics created big problem. The other part is that though harvesting has started, it is started at a pretty reduced scale. Also, the purchase of the output is very low. Therefore, farmer is not getting the cash still from the sale. So
Yeah.
reducing his actual purchase of agri inputs. So
Right.
those people have placed the material at the retail points, but the sale is pretty slow and conversion into cash is pretty slow.
Mr. Jain, we have one question.
Yeah, I'll just give me one more minute, then
Yeah.
I'll take the question.
Please complete. Yeah.
The last leg of our business is chemicals and plastics, where we make caustic soda, chlorine, and PVC. PVC has seen absolutely collapse of demand because most of the PVC using factories are not classified under priority sector, so none of them has started. Therefore, there is virtually no demand of PVC. Though PVC manufacture per se is classified under essential, so we could start the production. But since there is no demand, we have not been able to start the production. In case of chemical, which is caustic chlorine, again it is classified as essential, but because consuming industries are not there, we are operating at almost 25-30% of capacity. So at a total level, because of these issues, there is of course sharp liquidity tightness which has happened, which has meant that we have to schedule the payments to our suppliers. Of course, we are making regular payments, but we have to schedule the payments to our suppliers adequately. And we had to defer whatever capital, whatever capacity expansions projects that we have been undertaking. So this is, nutshell, is what we are facing. Yeah, you had some question, Masri?
Yeah, so one of the participants has asked one question and I wanted to bring it to you quickly. And this is about ethanol. So hasn't it been made an important component for sanitizers?
Ethanol is not, but what has happened is that the government has permitted to produce hand sanitizers by using ethanol or molasses. But the consumption for or the diversion that you can do to ethanol is a very, to hand sanitizers is a very small quantity.
Yeah.
That doesn't take care of the basic production that we do. The second part is in our chemical factories, we do make hypochlorite, which is used as infecting or disinfecting chemical. But again, these are very small businesses essentially.
Right. Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Jain. I also have Mr. Rachit Podar, who comes from the textile industry. They have Rachit Group. Mr. Rachit, can I request your views on this? Mr. Rachit, you have to unmute yourself. Shivesh, can you unmute Mr. Podar? Or not?
Hardik is the administrator.
Oh, Hardik, can you please unmute Mr. Yeah, Mr. Podar is
I've done, yeah.
Yeah. And Mr. Podar, also, please help us understand, are you focusing on domestic market or international market or both?
Yeah, Rachit, please go ahead. I think he's having some difficulty.
Yeah, I think so. I now move to the next sector, which is logistics, transport, travel, and tourism. And we have Mr. Manas with us from Balmer Lorry. Mr. Manas, can I request you to share your views on the issue that we are dealing with?
Basically, Balmer Lorry, as you know, that we have a existence or we do business in both sides, like in infrastructure, logistic infrastructure, as well as logistic services. First, let me speak about services. In fact, in the logistic part, in the supply chain is completely disrupted. International players are not there as far as air is concerned. So whoever is used to bring air cargoes, that is, we don't see in near future also that that is going to happen. Not even in next 4 to 5 months. And freighter is also not very much available because a lot of airlines, that they are going into the bankruptcy. They are changing their PAX airlines to passenger airlines to cargo airlines, but still there is not enough cargo at this point of time. And as far the global chartered aircraft is concerned, I mean, the big non-scheduled carrier is concerned, that is, numbers are very less. So today, if you see, probably you have all know that yesterday, Air Express, when Air India Express has started moving some vegetables from Kerala to UAE. Similarly, something has happened from Banaras to London. But that is all small aircrafts, not basically the charter aircraft. So this, in the air sector, we are seeing very large disruptions. Now ocean, again, we are expecting some, probably all of you are aware that last 3-4 years, there are a lot of consolidation happen.
Yeah.
So again, we are expecting that there will be some more consolidation is going to happen. March load, I mean, the March cargo was there because a lot of cargo, those are for the financial year, end of financial year. So those were all loaded. But as for the industry is concerned, as for my understanding, that now a lot of places, a lot of vessels, a lot of shipping lines, they will not find enough cargo to carry. There will be some changes in short to mid-term. Short means I'm talking about it is 3 to 4 months, and mid-term it's 1 year down the line. Maybe after 1 year, we can see some growth because both in air and ocean, because a lot of companies, they are going to move out from China. They're going to move out, of course, because a lot of discussion is going on. So a lot of factories going to set up. Of course, that's a positive outlook we are expecting in the long term, 2 to 3 years down the line. And now, as for the domestic transportation is concerned, I'll say that this is the high time we should speak about the people who are in the front line. As somebody has told, I think Sanjeev has discussed that a lot of vehicles were stranded on the road and drivers fled. Yes, drivers were not there. The discussed amount was, they are talking about, was 35,000 crores of materials were lying in the highways. It was not, that was the estimate by the government. But the estimate from the transport operator, total, we got it is around 100,000 crore materials because all started all of a sudden from 24th onwards. And drivers could not able to find their food. They nowadays, earlier days, we have seen that drivers used to carry their cooking equipments, their everything with them. But nowadays, as the dhaba system has increased and highways are good, so they are using more and more dhaba to have their foods. So all the dhabas all of a sudden closed. So now this is the high time that we should think about the basic front runner, the jawans of the industry. These drivers we need to take care. In America, similarly, if you see that one of the highest paid, salary paid people are the long range drivers. If somebody is carrying from Chennai to Jammu, and he's only earning 7,000 rupees plus 200 rupees is bhatta. I don't know whether you know the bhatta is his daily allowance.
Yes.
So it's very difficult for him to sustain. And 7,000 to 9,000 is the rupees. Whereas one transporter is getting rich, transport company, they are who are structured nowadays, they are making money. Their results shows that they made money in last 10 to 15 years. And there is some consolidation happening because of BS6 and other things, but driver section, this section has to be properly taken care of. Otherwise, this is going to be a major problem. The migrant workers, mostly, I know some of the companies who could not able to place the vehicles. We have so much, in fact, Bamalari has so much inquiries of transportation today from UP, from all these medical equipments, but we could not able to place one single vehicle, not one, I'll say we have placed 10, 15 at least. But the availability of the drivers are very less. They went back to their natives and they were comfortable sitting there. They do not want to take a risk. So that is the domestic transportation point I am talking about. And other side is the infrastructure. This is really what was going earlier. Then there also we will see, as per my understanding, that again some merger and acquisition is going to happen. There will be some funds will flow. Of course, that is not in short to mid term, of course, because unless and until there is a growth potential, because the companies who have been exposed and they have been bought over so many ports and port operations, they are now really exposed to the, I will say, financially, they are very, very, very not in a good shape, I'll say.
Mr. Manas, can you?
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah. Can you quickly wrap it up? We move to the next one, please.
Yeah, that's all basically. And there is only one business we expect that is going to grow. That is because that is the temperature control warehouses.
Sure.
That is surely going to grow. And of course, technology part, I must say, there is going to be a lot of changes in the technology part. And we are also expecting that AI, going to play a big role in 1 year down the line.
Sure. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Manas. And I now have someone who has been sharing more positive responses to the poll that we have had. We have Mr. C.V. Prasad from Land Port Authority of India. He's the finance member finance there. Mr. Prasad, may I request you to share your views? You have been sharing some more positive poll responses on our previous responses polls. Can you please share your views? You have to unmute yourself, Mr. Prasad. Yeah.
Good morning, Shivesh and Lodisab. Thank you. I personally feel that the situation should become normal in a couple of months, since international cargo movement may be on a negative slide. So we feel I feel that the land port, that the land border countries, the trade will increase. So that's why I feel that once the things become normal, then already land ports are working for the essential supplies, and the rest of the cargo also will quickly move. So we expect marginal growth this year.
Great, thank you. Shivesh, shall we move on, please?
Right. So thanks everyone for all the points that you had to share. I think very valuable points have come, and we have noted a lot of the inputs which have come. And just give me a moment. Yes. So we covered quite a few sectors, right? From renewables to infrastructure to construction, BFSI, logistics, diversified industries and lots of inputs, including startups from Anjali. So I want to talk about the work that we did. And as I told you that we use scenario building to look at economic numbers. And here are the first results of those scenarios. This is the first scenario, and I'll quickly run through the first scenario. Then all the scenarios are almost similar. Only the numbers are going to change. So the first scenario envisaged that economy starts on 20th April and COVID vanishes on 30th September. So from 20th April to 30th September, the economy is still working under the impact of social distancing. So it's working suboptimal. There are frictions in economy. It's not going to perform. So that has impact. First, this slide is about what is the impact on the nominal GDP of India. And if you look at all the black bars are the actual GDP numbers for the last 3 years. And this was planned as per the budget document that I shared. 204 lakh crore was the planned number. But we are going to hit about 200 lakh crore. So in nominal terms, even this year, just give me a second. In nominal terms, even this year, we anticipate shrinkage of GDP by about 2%, right? So this is just about 1.7% or something. And for the next year, the planned nominal GDP was 227 lakh crore. Instead of that, we are going to achieve somewhere about 195 lakh crore. So from 206, that we anticipate, and this is a number that that CSO also anticipates, and several other anticipates about 200 lakh crore is the number that India would have closed for in March 2020. Now, if this is a baseline, this 200 lakh crore, we effectively shrink by about 5 lakh crore on that baseline for the best case scenario, right? So these are all nominal numbers. Nominal numbers are important because all growth projections are built on nominal numbers. These are also important because government tax numbers are built on nominal numbers. So if government thought that they're going to get 10% tax on this, which is if 10% of 227 lakh crore is 22.7 lakh crore, effectively their revenue is going to shrink by about 2 lakh crore. And on that 2 lakh crore, they have a headroom of about 1 lakh crore in terms of and we wanted to achieve 156, but we will go down again to 141. So in the best case scenario, even the real numbers are coming down. Now, what is scenario 2? Scenario 2 is that COVID, we work under the impact of COVID until December, right? So all the numbers that you see on the left side until FYE 20, everything remains same as what we discussed. Only this bar has changed. So in the scenario 1, this bar was 195. Now it is 190, right? So so the nominal GDP goes down to 190 lakh crore from 200 lakh crore, a net reduction of about 10 lakh crore, right? And this is nominal. We have the real numbers, same forecast, but scenario 3, and scenario 3 is if economy and all of us, COVID lasts until March, this whole of the financial year, and we work with social distancing and slow pace of work and loss of trust and all those sort of stuff. Uh, we anticipate GDP to go down to by about 15 lakh crore, right? 14 to 15 lakh crore, and look at this number. So this is the nominal number. I quickly come to the real numbers are here. So so this chart on all the 3 scenarios, it is able to show the kind of economic loss that we anticipate, right? So the area, the shaded region that you see is the economic loss. Now this line is basically the growth trajectory, and if we really wanted to follow the growth trajectory, the economic loss would be about 25 lakh, right? If we are not following that growth trajectory, and we say that can we realistically achieve last year's numbers, and that's to achieve and even from that baseline we are going to be down by about 15 lakh crore. So that's the net reality. You can see that the green bars are for scenario 1, the blue bars are for scenario 2, and the orange bars are for scenario 3. So whichever scenario you take, this is the kind of hit that we are anticipating for the economy. Now, a few quick points, and you know all this. Look what is happening. The COVID, if you look at the top 10 COVID hotspots in this country in terms of the cities and their contribution to GDP, the cities' contribution to GDP, the reality is that these 10 cities, Mumbai, Delhi, Ahmedabad, Indore, Pune, Jaipur, Hyderabad, Surat, these are the cities which contribute a lot to India's economy. And effectively, we have 60% of the cases, COVID cases in these cities, and they contribute to about 1.1 trillion to India's GDP, about 40% to India's GDP. So if COVID persists, and in terms of all the diffusion curve that we are plotting for COVID, India still has about, our sense is we still have about a month to 40 days to peak. So the peak of India at the pace that we are growing, perhaps unless something radical happens, so summer comes, it's too hot and warm and COVID vanishes in warm climate. If all those hypotheses work up, it can happen sooner. But unless those scenarios kick in, chances are that India will peak with COVID cases at around between 30th May to 5th June. So this is what our models are saying. And the cities which are going to get impacted will continue to be Delhi, Bombay, Ahmedabad, etc., etc. And these are the guys who, these are cities which produce most GDP. So build this with Arvind Subramaniam's hypothesis that 3 lakh crore is lost for every month of lockdown or slow pace of work, etc. We are in a real tight spot, and if our businesses are focusing on these cities, everything goes for it is a complex situation, and we have to deal with that complexity. Someone already talked about this. This is another reality, and we did this quick survey with all the startups and MSME that we work, how many days of cash is available with them. And this was done between 23rd and 24th March, when the average number of days of cash available with small businesses and mid-sized businesses was about 22 to 24 days. Now, match this with government's, orders saying that you cannot cut salary, you have to pay salary, you cannot, you cannot reduce people, no job losses are going to be there. With all this, the first week of February was still fine. Businesses were able to tide over the crisis by doing something with the available cash. But the real crisis kicks in the first week of May, when people have to pay up for the salaries and supplies and all that. And if supply chain is not working, if finance cash flow is not working, we are going to see it's a serious tight spot which is there, for which we still have not found a policy-based answer. Other countries in the world, they have found answers in policy, in terms of banking, in terms of loan, in terms of tax, etc., etc. But we have still not found that. Our policy response until date has been 1.7 lakh crore of package for economically weaker section of society and all that. But the business who pays for most of the employees, they are in this tight spot, and we need to be cognizant of that. So I stopped here. I have one more slide to go. Masroor, can we quickly run? Can you quickly run this? Hello.
Okay, sorry, I did not unmute myself. Okay, so what we are doing is we are collecting the views of experts from across the industries and understanding what exactly is the support they need. Now, here is a chance for you to share your views about your industry, so that we collect that information. And if at all we take it forward with the government, we are in a position to voice your concerns and your support that you need. Yeah. So who would like to start? This is.
So Pushpinder wanted to say something.
Pushpinder, if you could please join in. Pushpinder, please unmute yourself.
Hardik, you will have to unmute Pushpinder.
He has turned that option off for the unmute, so
okay.
I guess he'll have to turn it.
Which is fine. So we can take any Ravi Sani, would you want to speak quickly? Look, we have a little bit of time limitation. We are already over time. So may I request everyone to make their points in about 30 seconds?
Yeah. Hi, Sanjeev.
Yes, hi.
See, what I see is that there is definitely going to be a great hit to the GDP because of this lockdown. And it is, though it is unwarranted, but we can't help it. We have to deal with it. So, like I always keep sharing that. Hello?
Ravi,
hello?
We can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Now I
Yes,
can hear
now it
you.
is better. Can you please come again? Can you switch off your video, please?
Okay. Yeah, can you hear it now?
Yes.
Okay, see, any loss in GDP can easily be compensated through a private sector investment. And the private sector investment can only come if there is some kind of an allurement to them. We have
Right.
reached a stage where the shots are called by a prospective investor. So what I suggest, Sanjeev, and to your organization to kindly push for government to frame certain policies which are investor friendly. Then only we can attract, and this COVID-19 situation is emerging as a golden opportunity for us and we cannot afford to miss it. A lot of companies are vanishing or exiting from China, and India, apart from India, Philippines, Bangladesh, Laos, Vietnam, these are the countries which can offer opportunities, and India should try to strike a big share of the manufacturing sector and inviting investment into integrated industrial townships, blue
Got
economy,
it.
and all those things.
Okay, so Ravi, can fair point, and I take your point, good point that you have made. Can we ask anyone else to make suggestion? Rajiv, we have who represents ITES sector. Rajiv, any thoughts? Rajiv Kumar.
You
Hi,
have to
Shivesh.
unmute yourself. Yeah, please.
I did that, Masood. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, from IT sector, it's almost the same, eco thought what other people have talked about. Business is really looking, not that great that the way it used to look to earlier. And from this sector point of view, we are really, looking at very cost conservative at this point of time, and because business is going slow. So what we had anticipated in last quarter, it has moved to next quarter, and that is a challenge we all of us are facing. Second issue, what we see in IT and ITS sector is that we all driven by the US kind of economy as it's a global sector and global company. So we're also dependent on the US, how they are, what's happening over there. So if the US economy is, taking a hit, it also cascades down to our market as well because we are serving to them because of the call centers, ITS work, and offshoring work as well. So we expect that this quarter we will be very careful and watchful, and we are conservative in terms of hiring and costs, etc. And then we look at next quarter how it's looks like, and then we'll take further steps.
So Rajiv, one question to you: If what sort of support would you be looking from the ecosystem? So call it government or any other ecosystem that you can think of.
Mm,
Is there a wish list?
our wish list is not from government, because government is doing their best, because in terms of protecting employees' interests, etc. So they are supporting what they can do, but it is a supply chain kind of problem and hit. So I was talking to my other colleague as well in the Interglobe, and they support to the travel industry. So in that travel is and hotel is kind of in a bad shape because there's no travel, nothing. So they are facing a lot of challenge.
Mm.
So that is the challenge, because in IT sector we all have a domain, either travel or hotel, or the we are into the back office kind of support we provide. We have a product support. So the call
Can
volumes are
we,
less.
right, Rajiv, I get your point. Can we quickly, Ruby Sinha is there. Ruby, can we have your views? What kind of support should your sector, or in your opinion, you interact with many other businesses, would be seeking from government or any other ecosystem players?
One second. Hi, Shivesh.
Yeah,
So,
hi. Yeah.
yeah, so, right now, the biggest support that we are seeking from the government, because I'm an entrepreneur, it's that, it's regarding the taxes. The more you get a moratorium on taxes, that's very important because we've got GST, we've got TDS, etc. Plus, if the MSME limit could be grown, increased. So right now, I think it's 5 crores. If the limit could be increased, to take care of the smaller companies, that's very important. So
Right.
So that's one of the factors that our industry is looking at. And I mean, I personally feel we are being asked not to remove people, but if clients go and there's no employment, and you look at it how with the Facebook acquisition of a stake in Geo, there'll be so many industries will be affected, right from e-commerce to a lot of small entrepreneurs and businesses will be affected. So what is the government doing to save these industries at this point of time?
Fantastic. Thanks very much. I have Praveen Johari, who's from Ericsson. Praveen, could you suggest your thinking? Your sector, we believe, is booming.
Praveen, you have to unmute yourself. Yeah, you have.
Yeah, I think this is wonderful introduction, and thanks Sanjeev and Masroor for inviting me. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, all well.
Okay.
All fine.
I think this situation which is prevailing is, as Sanjeev rightly put it, is unknown actually, and the entire world is grappling with the situation and how to cope with it. Telecom industry has been, very helpful in letting people cope with the current situation and challenges confined within the homes. I think this is the only lifeline that they are able to, find some help from, and they are able to still keep on going their normal business and interactions with the social and the friends, basically. So, telecom sector hasn't been that impacted as yet. We expect it to, in fact, continue as normal business as usual. Maybe it may get a little bit more fillip if we get to have more more traffic coming on to the networks. So, and also in the light of some backlash on China, maybe Ericsson in particular may get benefit coming from the limitations that Huawei or the Chinese player might face. But I think overall telecom business is, as of now, doesn't seem to be that much impacted. Thank you.
Thanks, Atan. Raghav, would you like to add something?
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Hi. So I belong to the healthcare consultancy sector, and we all know that it's grappling. The economy has hit everybody for this crisis. What would happen? What we seek from the government is extended moratorium, of course, as Ruby ji had pointed out earlier, and it would help people to actually have surplus available with them. Surplus is a wrong word to use, but that's the best word that I could come up with.
Right. No, we understand the feeling.
Yeah. So,
right.
And it's very fluid situation. All of us are grappling in the same boat. We don't know where we are going to, what we are heading into. Right. There is no, the light is there at the end of the tunnel. How long is the tunnel? We all can only think. That's all.
Right. Can I ask Mr. Kapil Khanna to make few suggestions for infra sector?
Yeah, okay. So I can, what I have done is I've divided into some things which are required to be immediately implemented. And one of them, because of this need for social distancing, I would request from the government of India to encourage use of online tools for conducting government business, to avoid face-to-face meetings. Currently, I find that it's not being used that much. So that's something which should be immediately happen. Then I suggest relaxation in some of these timelines and documentations for compliance, tax benefits, and also to ensure that the funding is maintained at the levels which has been provisioned in the budget. I know that it will be difficult, but if that is done, then it will be good for the sector for which I am representing.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Masood, you want to add anyone? One more question,
Yes,
then we use
Mr.
one
Jain,
slide.
yeah, Mr. Jain, if you could give your point in 15 seconds, please. Thank you.
I just wanted to sum up what is needed in my view in three categories. One is that all business entities need immediate cash to carry on making payments for wages and other essential dues.
Right.
I believe significant part of that need to come as grant, particularly for wages and salaries, and another chunk as soft loan. So that's one uh, package which should come in immediately. The second thing is, how do you bring the workers from villages to the factories and towns? So some kind of incentive package covering insurance, health, and life insurance for them, plus some cash incentive. And third part is logistics, because that's what is curtailing the entire supply chain. So some incentive package to bring back the drivers, etc. on roads. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Jain. Shivesh, can you please finish the discussion now?
Yeah. So another 2 minutes, and I want to finish this. I have one last slide which I want to share, which is, for all the work that we did, ultimately we came up with the first estimate of the economic support for various sectors. And in this slide, you can see sector by sector. So it looks like agriculture is going to thrive, and it's going to be the driver of economic growth this year. Usually it grows at about 5%, but considering that labor is available in rural areas, considering monsoon is going to be fine, and if inputs are and if supply chain starts working, perhaps this can deliver better returns. So all of the sectors, for example, look at mining, the impact is slower, it's going to require support, and we had Rakesh Tumane. Is he still there? Masood, can you check? We can take his input once I finish. He's from mining sector. Then from manufacturing side, we look at a big shrinkage in the sector. So effectively, it's about going to go down by about 20% in scenario 3. And Pushpinder asked, what do you mean by scenario 3? Scenario 3, Pushpinder, essentially means that COVID is there, and we sort of keep working in the world of COVID. The only challenge is when we work in the world of COVID, the trust levels are low, the overall productivity goes down, the pace of work goes down, and it impacts the economic output. So that's the challenge. Construction sector is, as Ravi said, is going to take a big hit. Trade, retail, more than retail, it is hotels, travel, tourism, which is going to take a lot of it. Passenger transport will take hits. All Ola, Uber, etc. So those are there are mixed views out there, but at the moment, all shared cabs and everything, they are lying idle, and people have not got any payments. Hotels and restaurants are going to shrink. Real estate, especially commercial real estate, we anticipate a lot of correction in real estate, and commercial real estate is going to correct. Offices vacancies will go up. Professional services will have impact. Healthcare perhaps is going to increase. Education, the increase is going to be nominal. So sector by sector, but effectively the size of package is the first estimate. I think the number is going to change subject to. So one of the news item which I got today, and I have not verified, and I really don't want to talk about it, but just to flag, someone sent me a message that that the lockdown is going to get increased from 3rd April even further. Now, if that happens, all these numbers change, because 3rd May. So if we move the anchor ahead from 3rd May, all the numbers go down once more. Now, J.K. Jain did ask that what is the calculation of 4 lakh crore. Jain Saab, it's fairly simple. If economy produces overall 200 lakh crore in a year, average it does about 18 lakh crore per month. And if it's operating at, let's say, at 75% or 70% capacity, we effectively lose about 4 lakh crore. So that's and that's on the nominal terms. If you discount it with inflation, it's about 3 lakh crore. So an economy today is not zero; it's still working despite all the things, right? So and sector by sector, the impact is different. So this is the first cut. We have done this for about 80 lines. 80 lines, when I say so, it could be separate for gems, separate for jewelry, separate for steel, separate for different sort of stuff. So this is the gist of the work that we have done. Before we close, if Rakesh Tumani is there, Masroor, if he's there, then we can take this question.
Rakesh
Masroor, you can wrap it up.
Yeah, Shivesh, so Rakesh has just left.
Right.
He's not here, but I think the whole point is we wanted to share the views of the panel that has worked on this white paper led by Sanjeeva Shivesh, and also pick up some points and brains from the experts who are sitting here from diverse backgrounds. And so thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your inputs. If any of you want to have a further discussion with us on this, we'll be happy to have that separately maybe. But for now, thanks for your inputs.
I have one quick point, Masroor, before you wrap. I think, and Arne has made his, so to everyone, all the comments that you have made, we are coming up with a second paper on the kind of support.
Yeah.
And all your inputs are going to be extremely helpful, and we're going to share the second white paper. The first white paper, Hardik has assured, and Ashwin leads Sapio Analytics, that this will be shared with everyone. If you have any question, you can reach out to us. I'm putting my email ID. And Masroor, can you type your email ID? And it's going to be there in the presentation anyhow. So that's there. We have been empaneled by TIFAC, which is under Ministry of Science and Technology, which does technology forecasting, to be supporting them with the economic forecasting work for tech sectors. So with that, we take your leave. Thanks very much for being patient, and our sincere apologies if we have missed out anyone. We really wanted all views and everyone's views because everything is important. We'll share the transcript of whatever has been provided here, and have a great day. Stay safe. Continue to work from home.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Good, ladies and
Goodbye to
gentlemen.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Everybody, bye. Cheers. Bye.